And that's what we're looking for, that thing.
Launch in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, g'day, I'm a matron and welcome to Subnautica. In this series of tutorials we're going to go through each of the stages of Subnautica from the start to the finish where the game is now, which is just prior to release. In this particular episode we're just going to cover the first 72 hours and how to start off in Subnautica. So let's get straight into it. It does have a little bit of a tutorial to get you actually going, just to walk you through it. And we'll start off with the tutorial, but it only sort of goes through for a couple of minutes. So let's pick up the fire extinguisher and let's put out this fire. Currently in the life pod, which is going to be our home for about the first 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, until we get things going. All right, fire out.
Head trauma. This is considered an optimal outcome. This PDA has now rebooted in emergency mode with one directive: to keep you alive on an alien world. Please refer to the databank for detailed survival advice. Good luck.
Okay, so yes, the PDA is an essential part of the of this game. All right, with the PDA itself. Not only do you actually have your inventory, going through you've got your blueprints, and obviously that's also an essential part of the building and how it actually works itself. The ping manager to allow you to actually find through your head-up display where certain things are. Some nice photos that we'll take. Copies if you missed the voice, you can always go back and listen to the pre-recording, and a data bank of things you find, and if you find other PDAs it will actually collect the details as well. Alright, so let's have a look in our room itself. We've got a damaged secondary system, we've got a fabricator, we've got a storage container, and we've got a medical first aid kit. So we'll take that first aid kit as it generates another one, open up the storage, we've got some water, and we've got food. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got here. First thing we're going to do is have a look at our world. Okay, so welcome to our new world and welcome to our game. So that's it. It's a water planet with some little friendly creatures around. So what's important to note is the map on every game is the same. The location of your life pod in that map can be slightly different. So if you're using this as a reference for your own build, just note that the life pod starts in the same generic area, but it's in a slightly different area. Okay, so we've got a few things to repair just to get us off in the first 24 hours. So we'll have a look at things that we actually need. So obviously the basic materials that we'll actually convert from the resources that we'll pick up. But more importantly, we just need to build some basic things to get us going. So the first thing we need to do is build a standard oxygen tank, which is some titanium. We're going to need to do some fins. And the two tools that we importantly need to build to start off with is a survival knife, a repair tool, and a scanner. So let's start building or focusing on those three things just in our first, as we said, the first 72 hours. So let's jump in, let's have a look at our underwater world, and let's start. So we'll start off with our cylinder and our rubber. Welcome to our new underwater world. So we just want to sort of pick up a few things. So here we got some metal salvage. We want to pick that up because that will give us our titanium. Obviously I'm looking at this underworld world for the first time, so I'm also just getting my bearings and references, and the easiest thing to reference yourself on is the actual aura itself. In this stage it's in one piece. You just need to keep having a look in the bottom left-hand corner at your oxygen levels. In this case here, we're just swimming fairly shallow as we check out a few things. So this is what we're looking for, and you see the marker just for the first one, which was showing the limestone. So we'll click on the limestone, which is going to give us copper.
Essential component of all powered equipment. Your probability of survival has just decreased to unlikely, but plausible.
So we're just going to use this to keep popping up to the surface and grabbing a few pieces of aluminium. Keep looking for those crusts. Without going for the first day or so, you don't have to travel away from your pod too far. Do a little bit of salvaging. The other thing whilst we're here as well, we've got what they call creep vines. So we're just going to go to the creep vines. You'll see these yellow pods on the creep vines. We're just going to collect 2 of these.
New blueprint acquired. Life on this planet grows in unusually distinct and diverse ecological biomes. Further study recommended.
Alright, so we want to just make sure we're going back with a full load. So we're just going to spend a little while just swimming around, just getting a couple of components that we need, but also orientating ourselves to our surroundings, because this is going to come very important over the next couple of days while we start building our base and start building things. As you can see some wreckage of the ore around, and you can actually see a couple of little things like this grav trap fragment and that, which we can't use at the moment, and also this component here, but we will be able to use it as soon as we build a couple of items. What we also want to do is just grab 2 of these, but I think we actually need we need a knife to actually get that. Alright. Another thing, just whilst we're here as well, we're just going to catch some fish. So this will also help us. So the things that we want is to build the basic tools and also have a food resource. So we're just going to catch this one, a boomerang fish. And the other one we can catch as well is this pink one, which is called a bladder fish. We'll show you what we can do with the bladder fish. but we have a couple of options here. Here's another piece of metal.
New creature discovered. Alien life forms may have unexpected
And we're going to take a couple of these acid mushrooms.
survival strategy.
Alright, so let's head back in and see what we can build with our resources. So we've got the fish and we're hanging on to it. So with our food, so you go to the sustenance field, go to the water, and you can see that we can actually just make filtered water with the bladdered fish. So we'll do that with the bladderfish. You can also cook the bladderfish, but I'd recommend that you actually just use it for water. Cooking food, we've got two types of food. We've got the boomerang, and another one that's sort of underneath your life pod that's a popular one is the pepperfish. So catching either of those are more than fine to start you off. Now if we have a look at our food and our water tab, let's eat our fish and drink our water, and that just gets us up to a decent level. So now we want to just convert some of these. So we're going to go into, once again, our fabricator again. Basic materials, we're going for titanium, and we'll just make our titanium, and we also want some silicon rubber. Excellent. So now, as we said, what we actually want to build, just bringing the tab up, is just our first lot of basic survival. So we want a standard oxygen tank, which will take 3 titanium, and we want some fins, which will take the 2 silicon rubber. Then we're going to go into our tools, which is our scanner, and then our repair tool. So let's have a look at our scanner just while we've got it open. It's a battery and titanium. Now we've got the titanium, but we need to be able to make a battery, and a battery is the acid mushrooms that we collected, as well as the copper ore that we collected as well. So let's make those 3 items. So first item we're going to make is the cylinder. So we go into personal, we go into equipment, and we'll see the standard oxygen cylinder. And that will just keep us under the water a little bit longer. The next one we have is our fins. So the fins are with the rubber that we made out of the creep vine. Next thing we want to do is then go into our tools, and we can make the first of our tool, or we want to make the first of our tool, which is the scanner. So once again we need to make a battery, so we'll go into resources, but we're going to go down to the bottom to electronics, where we have the battery, and the battery is the 2 acid mushrooms and a copper ore. Then we go back into personal tools, and now we can make our scanner.
The scanner can be used to synthesize blueprints from salvage technology and to record alien biological.
What it actually means is with the scanner, whilst we're actually now searching in the local waters, we will be able to scan the items we see, and then we'll add the blueprint to our PDA. What I'll generally do just in the early stages of the game is every time that the game actually gives us some in-game information, I'll just pause on the talking. Alright, so let's have a look at what we got. Now it automatically equips the items if it's got a space for it, and with the scanner, as you can see, it's also equipped those items as well. I've got one more metal, so I'm just going to turn that into aluminium, into titanium, sorry. I keep saying that by mistake. And then we're just going to use this container to store the stuff, and we don't need to take a fire extinguisher on our tours, and we should be fine. So that's our storage container. As you can see, the storage container fills up fairly quickly. Obviously we need to be careful of that. So what we do want to now start working on, and we can actually do a high capacity oxygen cylinder once we find silver. Glass is quite easy, and we'll show you how to do that. But what we do want to do is we want to work on our repair tool so we can actually work on it, and a survival knife. So let me just quickly make a survival knife. That was silicon rubber and 1 titanium, so we've got that. So let's have the silicon rubber and a titanium and quickly make ourselves a survival knife. Oh, it must be under tools, there you are.
Weapons were removed from standard survival blueprints following the massacre on Abraxas Prime. The knife remains the only exception.
All right, so what we want to do now, certainly within the first 24 hours, is now do the repair tool, which is just going to stop all this sparking, and then it will start us off on our missions. Okay, so let's jump in and find ourselves the components that we need for our tool. Now, to make our repair tool, silicon rubber we've done, titanium we've got. So the thing that we need the most is our cave sulfur. And as it sounds like, our cave sulfur is found in caves, but luckily the cave sulfur is found in caves that are close to our life pod. So we're just going to swim around, which we should swim around a little bit quicker now. Plus we should also have longer time underneath. Now I don't need any more titanium, but what I'm looking for is I'm literally looking for caves like this. You can just see this isn't a cave, it's a big oral, but you can just see that it just has a plethora of resources. So there's a couple of resources in here. First of all, there's quartz, and we're going to collect the quartz. But what I'm looking for and listening for is a little item that hides out in caves. And we may hear it before we see it. This is a great cave to have underneath your life pod. So if you're lucky enough to have something similar like this, you're very lucky. So we'll explore there. We're just going to grab some air, and then we're going to explore this one a little bit deeper. And that's what we're looking for, that thing. If you heard that, so there was a scream, and then it's almost like a suicide fish. So what it does is it comes out of this little bit here, and where there's one, sometimes there's more. So, and there you go, there's your cave sulfur.
Sulfur is an essential component of the repair tool.
This is a great little cave. Let's head up and get some oxygen. Well, here comes one of those fish. See it there. See, they don't just always pick on me too. They do regenerate, so don't think that just because he's jumped out that you're not going to see him again. Alright, so what we actually achieved there, we got a heap of quartz, which is great. So the quartz is good for our glass. Lots of copper, which will give us our batteries. Some lead, which is an important component, gold and silver. Each important component, and we're going to use each of those as we go through. The other thing is our storage container is getting a little bit full, and I'll show you a couple of options we can use with the storage container. So let's get straight into it. We wanted to make the repair tool, so the silicon rubber, which I believe we've still got some rubber down here. We have, so we collected 2 creep vine, and that's enough. That's given us our knife, our fins, and now a repair tool. So let's go into here with tools, and the tool we want to make is the repair tool. The other things that we actually had, now we've got our repair tool. The next thing that we actually want to make is our habitat builder, but we'll do that in the next episode as we actually start to build our bases, and we'll build our bases probably in the next episode. We'll start that, but let's use our repair tool. Repair tool's just down there in slot 4. No idea why you'd want to touch the end. Open the first aid kit just so we can slowly start collecting a few backup first aid kits. You only need one of those explosive fish to hit you, and it probably takes about 50% of your health. So right click and repair. There we go. Now that we've repaired that, The other thing we need to repair is our radio. Now once we fix our radio, this will be in the early game the primary way of how we receive our missions, and those missions are through going out and doing certain tasks. So let's just right click. And there we go, we've repaired. Alright, so let's click on the radio, get our first message.
This is Aurora. Distress signal received. Rescue operation will be dispatched to your location in 9 hours. Continue to monitor for emergency transmissions from other life pods.
Alright, and that's the start, so it's actually going in there, monitoring other emergencies. This will flash and it will send you a message, and it will give you, as I said, in the early game, this is how you actually get your missions to go through the game. So let's actually go through what we've got now. We've got a bit of storage, we've run out of storage here. So there's a couple of ways to make storage. One way is through a waterproof locker using titanium, but I'll show you another tip that you can actually use to get rid of it. So we'll store a little bit, we'll collect 4 of these. Oh, I didn't realise it. And we'll store some of these. And let's create our lockers. So going to personal, deployables, and we've got a waterproof locker. So let's just create one of these. And you need to drop it into a slot, so if you don't have a slot free, you just need to drop it in there. So the first way to have another storage type, as we said, is by using the locker. So you can press 5, push it out, right click, and there's your storage. Left click to open, and you can just transfer your items in there. But as you can see, it's quite a small storage area. Another way, which I particularly use in early game, just taking the titanium, is I look around near the life pod and I look for a little area, and this is perfect down here. I look for a little area that could potentially store my stuff. And what I mean is just dropping it onto the ground, because it does not disappear, but what it will do, it will move when the island moves. So I need to find an area that, and I've been caught out before where I've dropped items, let's say in an area like this, and then they've rolled and rolled and rolled, and then they've sort of rolled all the way down here, and it's hard to find. So I'm going to use this little area here because I know the items have got nowhere to go. Yes, they're going to be amongst the acid mushrooms and that, but literally I'm just going to drop them. There you go, simple as that, and they'll just stay on the ground. And then I continually, because it's straight under, see how they're sort of rolling? I can actually go down and actually just pick them up, and they'll stay there for. I've never seen them sort of disappear in this game mode. Alright, so what we're actually after now, we're going to build our habitat builder. Habitat builder needs a wiring kit and computer chips. Computer chips is table coral, gold and copper wire, and the wiring kit is 2 silver. So I know we've got 1 silver, we just need some more silver. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for a little bit exploring. We're going to look for more silver. We're going to grab our table coral, and we're going to just grab a few more blueprints as we go around in the first 48 hours. So we're going to arm ourselves with our scanner, and we're going to explore. So whilst we're here, we're going to grab some table coral. So we want to right click with the scanner just so we, and by doing the scanning, if there is any blueprints associated with that item, it will generate a blueprint. So you want to scan anything that is literally stationary or moving. And whilst we're here, we're going to collect some giant coral tubes. Just 2 of those as well. As it starts to get a little bit darker. Okay, so here we go. We can see an item in there, a sea glide. And we've got 50% of the sea glide, and we'll have a look at that in a second. A beacon fragment. Grav trap. Little bit hard during the night, I know. But this wreck is close to your life pod. Doesn't matter where your life pod is, this is probably one of the first wrecks that's there, and you can get a couple of starting blueprints. If you've already got 100% of the blueprint, it will just give you titanium in return. Okay, just welcome back quickly. I know it's not the life pod, but the item that we were looking for a while was salt. So once again, it's a whitish colour, very similar to the crystals or the quartz, but in this case, it's more of a flatter shape. So definitely pick up some salt in early game, because that will be an easier way to actually also make water rather than using the bladder fish. Okay, see you back in the life pod. Okay, welcome back. Okay, it was a great little haul. We also got bombed a few more times while we were out there. So we struggled so we got some more cave sulfur. But first of all, we're just going to get some water. So we'll do it the old-fashioned way to start off with, because we've got so many bladderfish. And then from here, this is probably almost the last time that I'll get bladderfish, but we'll definitely have it as a backup. Okay, now let's just do a recap on that exploratory trip. So we look at our blueprints, and we can see we've got 4 new blueprints. So let's just scroll down. So the pepper was 1, so that's not saying. So we've got a sea glide. So the sea glide is just awesome for sort of traveling around, and it will really change your early game process. The second one is a beacon, which is very cheap to make, but I find it very handy. And what the beacon can be used for is if you're exploring and you find something you want to go back to, it doesn't take up a lot of slots, and you can just quickly drop it in there. The last thing that we actually found was a grav trap. And a grav trap is just a nifty little way of catching fish and that in early game. It's probably not something you'll use late game, but in early game I find it very handy, certainly for just doing some easy fishing. So let's make each of those components. So the first one is the sea glide. Copper wire. Copper wire is easy, it's 2 copper pieces. Battery. We looked at the battery before, so the battery was the copper, and I think it was 1 copper or 2 acid mushrooms. And then the last thing was lubricant. So the lubricant, we had the creepvine cluster, where it's exactly the same thing. It's a single creepvine cluster. So let's build that to make our sea glide. We'll make our sea glide. What we're going to do is we're going to make a sea glide, and we're going to make a high capacity oxygen cylinder. So we've got 1 silver ore that we know of, and we'll do the glass. So let's do that, because it just means we can stay underwater a little bit longer, and it just makes the early game so much easier. So 2 glass and 1 silver ore. So we've got those components now. Okay, so we need to take our cylinder off for this. So just drop the cylinder into your main component. Go to equipment. Now we've got the high capacity oxygen cylinder. And let's build that. Awesome. Now for a small cylinder, it's 3 titanium. So I'm actually going to make a small one as well. And I'll show you why I'm going to use this. So a handy little tip for early game exploring. So we've got the high capacity oxygen cylinder and we've got a standard oxygen cylinder. When you left click to swap, it actually swaps those cylinders. So what it actually means, high capacity is 135, the standard one is 75. And when I get more silver, I'll actually have 2 high capacity. But what you can do under the water, if you're exploring and you get caught out in a cave or inside a wreck, you can very quickly just swap over to your backup and it will give you some emergency oxygen rather than sort of being stuck in the exploring and actually dying in there. So the next thing we wanted to build, as we said, we want to build a habitat module, but we want to build a sea glide. So let's get some acid mushrooms. We've got the copper, so we'll need 3 copper, acid mushrooms, and the creep vine pods. And let's make some lubricant.
Congratulations, Survivor. You have exceeded your weekly exercise quotient by 500%. Data indicates that swimming was your favorite activity. Be sure to vary your routine for uniform muscle development. Lubricant is essential in construction of vehicles and power plants.
So we're trying to make the sea glide. So we've got our lubricant now, so copper wire and battery. So we need to use a bit of copper. So copper wire. Okay, so now we should be able to make our sea glide.
Warning. Local radiation readings suggest the Aurora's drive core has reached critical state. Quantum detonation will occur within 2 hours. The sea glide will increase your effective exploration range. For your safety, please pack supplies for long journeys and stay within 5 kilometers of the nearest life pod or habitat.
Okay, so now with the light, with the sea glide, not only does it have a light, and you can turn that off, it just makes things so much quicker. So yes, it has a light source, but it also just spins you around a lot quicker. So let's drop some more of this titanium off. It does take up a little bit of room, but gee, it's worth it. Swapping those 2 around. Okay, so let's just do a recap on what we have and what we want to make. We do want to make a beacon. We want to make our grav trap, so once again more copper ore. But we will make them into the next series. So we've got 2 hours until the ore reaches critical mass, which is just a nice way of 2 hours before it explodes. Once it explodes, then it will certainly start the next part of our mission. We also want to build a habitat builder, and that will allow us to actually start building our habitat modules and get out of the life pod and actually start having a home. To do this, we need a computer chip, which we've used before, but a wiring kit. And a wiring kit is 2 silver. I'm not concerned about the lack of silver in early game, because once the ore goes through critical mass, we can then start exploring closer to the aura, and this will allow us to and there's silver over there, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, so we can actually get some silver that's over towards the aura itself. Okay, that's been probably a good 30-40 minutes for episode 1, and that has just in the early game. We can see we've got a couple of messages waiting, and I think that is a great one to get in. So let's have a look at those messages, but I'll also use this as a roll-on to get into the next...
Signal location uploaded to PDA.
All right, we've got some other survivors, Life Pod 3. So by going to the ping, you can see Life Pod 3 is now within your PDA in your ping manager. And if you look, you can see it on your head-up display. So Life Pod 3 is 300 meters away in that direction. All right, and we're going to go over and we will explore Life Pod 3 in the next episode. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Just how to start up in Subnautica. It is a fantastic game. I've played hours and hours of Subnautica, and now I just look forward to actually showing it. I will show it through step-by-step tutorials, but what I'll also do is create some side tutorials on certain items to make or certain items to find that can be a little bit tricky. So don't forget to hit the likes if you've enjoyed it. Please leave your comments on anything you want to see. So whilst I'm building the tutorials, if there's items that you're struggling with or items that you would like some more clarity on how to build or how to find, please leave them in the comments as it grows this series within Subnautica. Thank you very much. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all or having you view the next lot of series. Thank you, and see you in the next one. Bye.